right, y'all. Welcome back and happy Sunday. It's time for my day after thoughts. We're going to be going through some stats, the box score, showing you some like PFF numbers, not so much the actual grades and all that type of stuff, but just using that so that y'all can see who played well, who needs to maybe take a step forward in certain aspects on this team. We'll be getting to my grades at the very end of this. And I actually want to start off with my opening thoughts on Alabama. I know that there will be some Tennessee fans that look at the logo on the side of Alabama's helmet and think that we can't win that game. Those are probably the same fans that thought that we're going to end up blowing out Arkansas. But really, I would say that the SEC, it's a lot like the NFL, where they say any given Sunday, anybody can win. For the SEC, any given Saturday, I think, not as much as the NFL, but almost. It's very, very close. Any given Saturday, pretty much any team can win. It's about the matchup, which is what we're going to be breaking down starting off on Monday with this game. But I've watched Alabama live some. The first thing that I can tell you about them is that they are very, very talented. They're going to be the second most talented roster that Tennessee's faced. And they have a good offense. They have a really good quarterback. He's operating well. They've got some great wide receivers. Like, I think that their passing scheme is going to be better than what Georgia's was. And, I think that their running scheme might be worse, though. Georgia's running scheme isn't great. They're very simple. You know what I'm saying? Like Alabama, their scheme on offense, it's simple to be able to stop it. It's not. I think this is a better matchup for our defense than Arkansas was. I think that this is a lot better matchup. So that's positive. Now, as far as Alabama's defense, I think that, clearly they're going to be very, very talented. Some big guys who can cover playing at corner. So like the outside stuff, they're going to be good at that. Previously, when Tennessee was running more of like the base veer and shoot style with all the choice routes, Alabama's defensive style was a good matchup in Tennessee's favor. But now that we're doing more pro style stuff, I could see it being a little bit more of a challenge for Tennessee's offense in this game. We have to be able to run the football. So one of the things that I'll say is that I think that Alabama's run defense isn't great. I think that they're kind of soft from that standpoint. So it's a positive sign that Tennessee was able to run the football as much as we did versus Arkansas, and we showed that we can run the football pretty well. There's some things that we still need to get cleaned up, but it is taking some steps forward. That's going to be critical in this matchup versus Bama. Now, with all that being said, I feel like Tennessee matches up well. Again, I haven't really broken it down as much as we do with these, or as much as we have with these previous teams, right? But just in watching them live, I could change my mind once I dive deep into everything. But I think that this is a good matchup for Tennessee. I think it's a much better matchup, offense, defense, probably special teams, than Arkansas was. Now, we're going to Tuscaloosa. I think people are starting to catch on that the SEC, it's a bunch of cheaters. They cheat a lot more than any other conference anywhere that I've ever seen. It's blatant cheating. Whenever Kirby Smart is on 4K calling a timeout and he's able to talk the referees out of the timeout, it's things like that, and we've seen it with Alabama. I think it started with the second half versus Vandy. The referees really started to cheat for them, and then we saw it in their game yesterday. They're going to be at an all-time high in cheating once we go down there. So that's what I'm the most concerned with. Any players or coaches, the coaches should already know. Most of the players should know. Some of those guys might be new to this. You're not going to get any calls. Don't expect any calls. Expect them to cheat, because that's exactly what they're going to do. I talked about it last night. This is a game that Tennessee needs to say, hey, man, we got to try to beat them by like 21 more points than what we think. Just because like that 21 points is going to dwindle down to probably like 7 or maybe 3, because the refs are going to cheat you out of like 17 or 18 points. That's just how it goes. So understand that. That's my biggest concern with that matchup. But with all that being said, y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And let's go on ahead and jump into my thoughts and everything, and all the stats from yesterday versus Arkansas. So this is from Pro Football Focus. All right, this is just the box score stuff. I always talk about the total plays for the offense. So this left column is going to be all the like team numbers. Over here, you're going to see the rushing and the passing numbers. Under that, in the very bottom left, we will be seeing the special teams numbers. But 76 plays on offense for Arkansas to our 65. Typically, the team that has more plays on offense wins ball games. So that's a really good job for us to come out and find ways to win. Now, as far as the total net yards, y'all can see that Arkansas had more, 505 to our 485. Average yards per play. Tennessee had more, 7.5 to 6.6. Total first downs, y'all can see how that looks, so on and so forth. Now, third downs, this is something that I do want to talk about. So this is just looking at their offense. So this left side is going to be Arkansas. This right side is going to be Tennessee. They were 54% on third down. So they went 7 of 13. There's some things, I know a lot of folks are going to be hard on Coach Banks. I'm going to be kind of hard on him too. Again, the grades are going to come at the very, very end of this. But I think, like, I can see what he's trying to do. Doesn't mean that that's the way that I would do it, but what he's trying to do, you can understand, hey, there's a rhyme and a reason to what he's doing. I just don't think that we're executing things as well as we could have. But yeah, 54% to our 22%, that's never a good number. And then we'll scroll down and let y'all take a look at the rest of this stuff. Y'all can pause it and look at whatever you want to. All right, just because we're not going to go through all those numbers. It's way too many of them. We have a lot more to get to. This is all special team stuff. Some people care about the special teams, which you definitely should. I don't pay too much attention to those numbers, but let's pull it on back up and now let's start to talk about the rushing stuff, because we know that Tennessee did a better job rushing the football yesterday, but we also didn't do a very good job of stopping a run. That's a big time problem. So right here with the total rushing plays, Arkansas had 39, Tennessee had 40. We felt like both teams would try to run the football more in this game. You can see the total net yards. So 270 for Arkansas, 264 for Tennessee. The average net rushing yards here, 6.9 for Arkansas, 6.6 for Tennessee. This column shows the average yards before contact, 1.7 for Arkansas, 3.5 for us. What this tells me is that we did a better job of blocking things up, scheming things up than Arkansas did. But down here, you can see the average yards after contact. 5 yards after contact for Arkansas running the football, 3.1 for us. This tells me that really both teams did a good job of, forcing some missed tackles, so on and so forth, running through the contact, falling forward. But Tennessee's defense just didn't do as good of a job of being solid with our tackles. It's fundamental stuff. That's the biggest problem, I think, with this defense. These are the runs of over 10 yards. Y'all can see that. And then we'll just keep on scrolling. Okay, we'll come on down to the passing numbers. So Arkansas passed the football 37 times. Tennessee passed it 25 times. Y'all can see the gross passing yards here. Arkansas is on your left. Tennessee is going to be on your right. You can see the averages, so on and so forth. Now, as far as the actual passes that we threw, 31 for Arkansas, 25 for Tennessee. They hit on 21 of theirs. We hit on 16 of ours. So Taylor Green was at 68% and Joey Aguilar was at 64%. But if you factor in like drops and all that type of stuff, 75% for both of these quarterbacks. That's way too high for Tennessee's defense to be giving up passes, especially whenever you look at those yards. So we'll just keep on kind of like scrolling through and let y'all take a look. This one, it shows you everything. Like these are the passing. These are the passes, I think, caught of over 15 yards. So 6 for each team. That's not good for our defense. It's good for our offense. Really should have been better. You can see the actual deep passes, not the ones that were caught, but just the ones that we passed over 20 yards. 2 for them, 5 for us. We actually caught 2 of them. They didn't catch any of them. But so just like little things like that, I want to make sure that everyone can see all that. So this is going to be missed tackles forced on passing plays. 3 for them, 0 for us. There was a very similar thing within the running plays. Now let's move on. Okay, because we've already kind of talked about the passing numbers. We don't need to look at that anymore, but I do want to take a deeper look at these rushing numbers, right? Just so that y'all can see who all did what. So Tennessee is going to be up top. You can see the player here. You can see how many times they carried the football there, their total yards. This is yards after contact right here. This is their touchdowns. This is their first downs. These will be scrambles. So Joey Aguilar, he scrambled twice. This is missed tackles forced. You can see that we did a pretty good job here. So Star Thomas, he forced 3 missed tackles. And then Bishop, he forced 2. All right, and we'll scroll on over. No fumbles, which is huge. Love seeing that. This is yards per carry inside of this column. Great job by Bishop. Hope that he's all right. And this column is going to be the yards after contact average. What you're going to see here is that Bishop did a really good job there, did a great job there. So really everyone, I think, did a pretty good job there. This is their runs of over 10 yards. Okay, and then this is the yards before contact average inside of this column. And what you're going to see is that Bishop, he had about 6 yards before he got touched on most plays. Star Thomas, that didn't block as well for him. So he was averaging like negative 0.4 yards before he got touched. So he's getting hit in the daggone backfield. But it's not a problem with Star. That was a problem with the blocking. Peyton Lewis, you can see where he's at. You can see where Joey Aguilar's at. So on and so forth. Okay, and we won't take a look at the Arkansas numbers. Well, let me just bring it on down just in case y'all wanted to look at it. I'll just scroll it through briefly. Hopefully y'all know where every column is, but some people might want to see it so y'all can see that. All right, let's move on to the pass catching numbers because there's some things that I definitely want to talk about here. All right, so this is obviously going to be all of Tennessee's wide receivers. You can see their targets inside of this column. You can see their catches inside of this column. Yards here, yards after catch. This is yards after contact there. This is their touchdown column. This is their first down column, so on and so forth. So the one thing that I want to point out is that Braylon Staley right here, he had a great game. Okay, he had a very, very good game. But the other 2 wide receivers, so Mike Matthews, he did some good things. He actually got one like rushing play, which is good. But there was one play with him. There was one play with Chris Brazzell where they cut off their routes. That's not a good. Like guys have got to finish routes. I think for Brazzell, his son might have been in his face. He lost the football, but this is SEC. Like this is D1 Power 4 college football. That you still have to try to find a way to catch the football. I think that it was thrown in a very accurate place. You just have to catch the sun, right? We also had some drops. So 2 drops for our guys. They're saying that Brazzell and then Miles Kitselman, who I think had a pretty good game catching the football and all that, so on and so forth. But we do have to clean up drops. Like it was a third and I want to say 15. Everything was executed perfectly outside of the drop. Perfect pass. Got to make those types of catches. But we'll just keep on scrolling on over some of this stuff. So this is going to be like the tough catch targets inside of this column. This is the actual tough catches that all our guys made. These are going to be the catches of 15 plus yards for all of our guys. And I don't think that there's really any reason for us to take a look at Arkansas's people, but wanted to show y'all how those numbers look. Now let's move on to the pass protection. And I just want to focus on Tennessee for this one. So, okay, we can see the sacks inside of this column, the hits inside of this column, the hurries inside of this column. This is the times that they were beat by the defense. This is the actual pressures. And then over here is the pressure rate that they gave up. So I think that our guys did good. I'm super proud of the offensive line just because a lot of guys got to play. Sham got to start at left guard. We also got to see Sat come in at center. I think that he played well. Really, all of our guys show some good things as far as the pressure rate. We're seeing that Lance Hurd, he had the highest pressure rate given up with our offensive line at 10.7%. I think that he played very, very well. I mean, way better than he did last season. Sometimes they're going to be able to get some pressures, but obviously he gave up 0 sacks. So that's the biggest thing. Don't give up the sacks. And then who else? Yeah, well, obviously nobody gave up any sacks. But who else did a pretty good job just like with the pressure rates given up? So they're saying that Miles Kitselman at 16.7%. But I'm going to tell you something about Miles, man. He's blocking defensive ends. There's not very many tight ends that can go and block real dudes that are going to go into the NFL next season at defensive end like an offensive lineman. And he's been doing that over the course of the year. That's something that I think Tennessee might miss next season. So definitely wanted to highlight that. But offensive line played well. I just wanted to show y'all how these numbers look, okay? Now let's move on to our pass rush. And then, we just got a couple more things we'll look at here. And I'm going to get into the grades. So pass rush for Tennessee. All right, so it looks like we have all of our most of our defensive linemen. So what I'm going to do is try to reorganize this so that we can see our defensive linemen first, just because there's so many players. And this is Arkansas's guys. We're not going to focus on that. But this is Tennessee's guys, okay? So you can see the sacks inside of this column, hurries there. And then we'll also talk about the pressure rate, which will be right here, okay? So Don Bailey had a great game, 13.6% pressure rate, 1 sack. Bryson Easton, his pressure rate was at 0, no sacks. But he's going to catch on. He had a good game stopping a run, right? Jackson Moore, his pressure rate was at 4.5%, no sacks. He did some good things too. Devin Hobbs had a great game. He looks, to me, he should probably be starting next to Bryson Easton or Jackson Moore. But he had 1 sack. Pressure rate was at 8.7%. He's looking really good. He's only going to be getting better. Let me bring this thing on back over because it skated on me. All right, so bring this back over. Campbell, you can see his pressure rate was at 0. He did some good things too. Tyree West, 1 sack. Pressure rate was at 10%. Joshua Josephs had the highest pressure rate with all of Tennessee's defensive linemen, 21.1% with 1 sack. You can see the hits and hurries and all that type of stuff. Caleb Herring, 17.6% pressure rate, no sacks. Tyree Weathersby, he had a 16.7% pressure rate. He did some good things. Jordan Ross had a great game. 2 sacks, all right, forced. I think he might have forced maybe 2 fumbles or something, but 10.5% pressure rate for him, okay? And then you can see the linebackers and secondary players, so on and so forth. Now, the last thing that we'll look at, y'all, is just going to be coverage. And this is going to be kind of misleading just because sometimes these guys are going to be in off coverage and, they're giving up underneath passes. But I'll show you what I like to focus on. This is the time that they were targeted in coverage. This is the catches that they gave up. This is the rate at which the passes were hit on these guys. This is the yards that they gave up, touchdowns that they gave up, first downs that they gave up, interceptions. All right, so I think that our cornerbacks played very well. So they're saying that Colton Hill was targeted 8 times, gave up 4 catches. That's 50%. Like I said, the ones that he gave up is going to be more like deep coverage, and they're throwing just like underneath stuff. Tyler Redmond also here, you're seeing 6 targets, gave up 5 catches. It was all underneath stuff. I think that both of those guys did a good job helping out versus the run. Tyler Redmond, he's taken several. I mean, he has just gotten significantly better. Andre Turrentine, you're seeing he was targeted 3 times, gave up 3 catches. Right here, you're seeing that Ed, he wasn't targeted at all. Missed tackles is something that I would like to look at. I'll take a look and see if they have that showing up here for us. But Arion Carter targeted once, gave up 1 catch for 8 yards. J-Mac targeted 3 times, only gave up 1 catch. That's about 33% for 30 yards. That was a pretty big one. I think that was a first down. Boo Carter targeted 4 times, gave up 3 catches, 75% for 50 yards. One of those was in man coverage, but the other ones, it was just him not doing a good job with his zone. That's been a pretty big problem, especially for us on third down. Edwin Spillman, okay, he was targeted once, gave up 1 catch. I think that he also played well. That 1 catch that was on, I want to say that was on Arkansas's first drive. He does need to do a little bit of a better job of finding his people and latching onto him just a little bit tighter. He could have stopped them from making that. That was on third down, but he could have stopped them from making that first down. I'm not sure, but I think he might be missing the first half versus Alabama, which sucks because he played very, very well for us. Now, Jeremiah Telander, he was targeted twice, gave up 2 catches for 18 yards, gave up a touchdown, gave up a first down. That one on the touchdown was really, really bad. Sidney Walton, he was targeted once, gave up 1 catch. I think that he did some nice things. Jaden, he wasn't targeted in coverage, so on and so forth, right? So y'all can see how all that looks. Now, let me come on back up to the top and see if they have missed tackles in here, because I do want to talk about that. I think that that's a pretty big deal. And they might, okay, yeah, so they do have missed tackles. So they're saying that there was only 1 missed tackle, and I disagree with that. And they're crediting they're crediting J-Mac with that missed tackle, but it's just because that's within pass coverage. If you look at the actual like running plays where there were missed tackles, our safeties did a horrible job there. All right, so with all that being said, man, we just took a look at a whole lot of stats. Hopefully, y'all got something out of it. But let me get to my grades. All right. So with my grades for the offensive coordinator, that's where we're going to be starting at. I give Coach Halsley / Coach Heupel an A. I think that the game plan was really good. We talked about coming out trying to run the football more. We didn't know exactly what their scheme was going to look like for their defense with the new kind of like interim defensive coordinator coming in. But I think that we had some good things dialed up, so I really like seeing that. I think that Joey Aguilar had his best game. I think he looked really good, very poised, threw the football well, ran it too, which is big. Something that Tennessee, I think, is needed to put on film just a little bit more, because we're really starting to get into like the teeth of this schedule. You got to show that, hey, the quarterback will run it. That's going to help with the running game from our backs. So great game from Joey. Obviously 0 turnovers. That's huge. Running backs, I think that they played well. There was, I want to say one time when Peyton Lewis, he was in there, he missed a block. So he went out for a route, and we've talked about this previously. Sometimes the guys are too quick to leave that backfield, and they should maybe wait a little bit longer and try to hold up and pick up a block. He missed one, but we didn't take the sack there. We were able to, I think, get the football out. I don't remember if we caught that or not, but just as far as actually running the football, I think they did a very, very good job showing some patience with what was there, right? Because a lot of the running with the offense, or, with the, our backs versus the offensive line, a lot of that's going to be based off of the offensive line. Some of it's going to be scheme stuff. The outside zone still doesn't look great, but that's going to be, I think, more like on the offensive line, honestly speaking, than it is on our actual backs. So wide receivers, I gave them a B-. Now, Braylon Staley had a great game, but as we touched on, not running routes all the way through, because we should have had 2 more touchdowns than what we scored in this game. Dropping passes, that part of it wasn't great. Tight ends, as I talked about with it, especially Miles Kitselman, but even with Jack, they did a really good job of blocking, run blocking, pass blocking. That all looked good. And catching the football, Miles, for the most part, he looked good, but especially in the most critical moments, being a veteran, you got to be able to make those catches. If the football hits you right in your hands, got to make those catches. He has way too many drops so far this year, but that's why that's why I have them at an A-. If it wasn't for that drop, they'd probably be at like an A+. Now, as far as the like guards and centers, I gave them an A. I think that they did a good job. Sham Umrov looking better. Sam Pendleton, I think that he looked good. William Satterwhite also looked good. Obviously, Moy, he always looks good. So very, very solid job. Run blocking, pass blocking. Offensive tackles, I gave them an A-. Like we kind of touched on, there were some times when Lance Hurd gave up some like inside pressure. Wasn't terrible. He was actually able to, and it wasn't, again, wasn't terrible, wasn't horrible pressures. He was able to knock the people out of Joey's way most of the time. And then also there was a couple of plays like running the football where, and even in like some screen plays where I think that David Sanders could have done a little bit better. Jesse Perry, there was one block that he missed. So things like that is going to happen, but offensive line as a unit played very well. Now, let's talk about defense. So I gave Coach Tim Banks, I gave him a C-. And some people are probably going to say, well, he should have gotten an F or like a D, but I gave him a C- because, as I touched on, I can see what he's trying to do, but he has to understand what his personnel is. I don't think that he has the proper personnel to run certain things. And also, I think that his defense can be overly complicated in some of these situations, right? Like, I think we need to dumb it down some. I think that there's too many different moving pieces, and that was probably a pretty big part of why Arkansas was able to run the football so well versus Tennessee. Now, we talked about that read option. We did a pretty decent job versus it. I could tell that the game plan was try to take away, like what Taylor Green's doing, try to limit him, try to make him hand it off more, which we mostly did that. But you also can't just give up so many things. And I don't think that us giving things up, again, some of it's going to be on Coach Banks, but really most of that's just going to be on not like executing, right? But I just think that he can make it easier for our players to execute what he's asking of them. So that's why he's at a C- and not like an F or like a D for me personally. Now, our defensive ends and our defensive tackles, I think they both played well, held up, good versus to run. We did a much better job of setting stronger edges. So part of that's going to be with our linebackers too. But yeah, I think obviously getting 5 sacks in this game, the pressure came from the defensive tackles, came from the defensive ends. And, I think that they hustled hard. You know what I'm saying? Like they forced the turnovers and so on and so forth. So defensive line for me, I think that they played well. Now, linebackers, I gave them a D. And the only reason that it's not an F is just because we had guys that came in and played well, like Edwin Spillman. Wasn't a perfect game, but I think that he played relatively well. I also think that Jaden P came in. He looked good. He needs to play a lot more, okay? I think that the worst game has to go to Jeremiah Thielander. I know some of the stuff is what they asked him to do, but he also, sometimes he's running himself out of plays. Like we talked about the touchdown that he gave up in coverage where he's covering grass. I know that linebackers aren't always going to be great in coverage, but at this point, he's got to do much, much, much better. Arion Carter, he had a rough first half. He made up for it, though, I think, some in the second half. But just like as a unit, dude, our linebackers running themselves out of plays, missing run fits, absolutely horrible. And while we're talking about that, let's jump on down to the safeties. I gave them a D-. I think they played horrible. I really probably could have given them a freaking F, but they made a couple of plays, so I couldn't do that. But D- is about as close as you can get to an F without actually getting one. But man, I mean, missing tackles, missing run fits, not looking great in coverage. They didn't get targeted that much, but just didn't look great doing any damn thing. Sidney Walton came in. He was, to me, was like one of the bright spots. He's still a freshman. He's got to figure some things out. But the more that he plays, the quicker he's going to get it figured out. But our safeties, major problem for me at this point. We got to, going back to Coach Banks with the scheme, dog, you got to stop asking them to do certain things because they just flat out can't freaking do it. Like they're not going to be good inside of the box. Let the linebackers play inside the box. Let the secondary players play off and just play out in space more, which didn't look great doing that either. Open up your eyes, make the tackles. If you have a run fit, if you're supposed to be outside leverage, get to the freaking outside leverage. Do your job first. Stop trying to overcompensate for the inside runs because we got burned on that several times. Or vice versa. Terrible job, I think, by our safeties, especially with those vets. Needs to get cleaned up immediately. Now, let's go to a bright spot. Let's talk about Tennessee's corners. I gave them an A. I talked about it. I think that they played very well, getting off blocks, making tackles, or maybe not even getting off of the blocks, but, dodging people. Let me go back to those linebackers. They need to use their hands a lot more to get off blocks. It's like if they can't beat it with some speed or something, once someone holds on to them, they just like stand there and get blocked. Buddy, use your hands. Like you have hands. God gave you hands. Use those things, right? Like use your speed, use some savviness, and play with better instincts. So I had to touch on that with our backers. They played really bad. But cornerbacks, I think that they played well. The stuff that they gave up was going to be underneath stuff in zone coverage where they were doing their job. A lot of really good like route combinations from Arkansas's offense setting us up. And I've seen a spot where teams are starting to go at Tennessee, especially on third downs. We're going to be breaking that down for our members. Now let's talk about the star players. I gave him a C+ here. I think that J-Mac played well. He did give up one pretty big play, but that's going to happen sometimes. But for the most part, he played very well. Now, Boot Carter in the first half, whenever he comes in, they like to go at him, especially on those third downs. And I'll go ahead and tell you this now. It's the curl to flat. They're able to occupy our stars or our safeties or, whoever inside of that curl and hit the flats, but it's not really like the flat. It's more of like a deep out. So on the third and longs that we're giving up, that's happening way too often. And the first half, didn't look like he really cared. But then he started to, I guess, like your juices started to flow. And then that dog comes back out and then he looks good. So it's very, very frustrating. Let me also point this out. It was at least one play that I saw J-Mac playing it more like safety level. He's still playing at star, but he was playing like a safety. And then we saw Andre Turntime playing it more like star. It looked good. Okay, I think that we could do that. I think that we could do that with Boo too. There were some times where he's playing deeper than our technical like safeties, right? The safeties are playing more like star depth, and he's playing it more like safety depth. Those guys look better. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna tell you, like, you can't put Boo and J-Mac at safety, but you could mix and match. Like, I think whenever one's playing at star, the other one probably needs to be playing at safety. That could be, and I know people have been asking about it, people have been talking about it. I think that's probably something that we should try to do because it does look significantly better, all right? So with all that being said, man, those are my thoughts. Those are my personal grades. I'm sure that other people will have different grades, and that's perfectly fine, just because we don't know exactly what's going on. Obviously, I've gone through, watched the film several times. I have a pretty good understanding of what they're trying to get done, but I'm not gonna know every single small thing about it. But so I think that we can take several steps forward, man, with this defense, mostly on the second and third levels, mostly at linebacker and at safety, obviously some at star. If we can just get Boo to buy in from the first snap, I think we'll be fine there. But yeah, play the young guys more. I think that's what we need to do in those two spots. But y'all please share your thoughts as well, and make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll be talking to y'all tomorrow. Thanks, peace. Thanks for watching, and please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel because that keeps us growing inside of the YouTube algorithm. And if you did like this video, here's another one that you might also enjoy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.